Hey, what's up? It's what episode is this? This is
26. I think it's 26.
Something like that. This is the Jaws episode. We are here to talk about one of the greatest movies ever made, directed by Steven Spielberg. It's called Jaws, and I'm your co-host Michael, and as always, I'm joined by
Joshua Merville. Yeah, today's a blockbuster special. It's got a really cool one today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as always, we're joined by Chimp Ian.
How's it going, guys?
The co-owner of Meteor, where we watch all these movies.
That's right. That's right.
But
fun one tonight.
This is a very, very special one because the first time ever we have flown out an expert on our film to talk about the movie. Steve Kessel is joining us from the Shed Aquarium.
Dr. Steve Kessel.
Dr. Steve Kessel is joining us from the Shed Aquarium in Chicago. Thank you, Steve, for coming out.
Hey, it's a real pleasure. This is genuinely my favorite film. I love sharks like Cooper, and any opportunity to talk about sharks and to talk about this film together is a dream.
So here's the thing. I mean, there's also a separate segment that we've done, which is your presentation about the film. So, but there's so much that you didn't get to mention in the slideshow, and so be sure to watch both segments if you're going to watch this and that, right? Because there's a lot to talk about. But why don't we first talk about our experience with the first time we ever saw this movie? Because I did not see this movie till I was about 20, and I'm assuming you saw it when you were younger, right? So why don't you tell us your experience with this movie?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I really liked three things: sharks, snakes, and dinosaurs. And I quickly figured out that dinosaurs, despite Jurassic Park, are dead. So I kind of lost interest there a little bit. It was between like venomous snakes and sharks. And I was aware of Jaws. My mum had talked about it, and I was bugging her. I was probably about 5 years old, bugging her to let me watch it, and she wouldn't. So she compromised, and she actually let me watch a scene from Jaws 2, the scene where the helicopter lands to try and save the boats and the shark pulls the helicopter down. And then I was like, I have to watch the full original movie, and she buckled after much pestering and eventually, probably not great parenting, but she let me watch it. I'm very grateful she did.
Okay. So what about you, Ian? What's your experience with this movie?
I thought this was one of those movies that I'd seen ages ago and just didn't really remember it. And part of that comes from how much of it has just sort of seeped into the cultural zeitgeist.
Sure.
It's been parodied. It's been paid homage to. Sitting here watching it, I realized, no, I have not ever sat down to watch this movie. So this was my first time ever seeing Jaws. And it surprised me. It surprised me that it'd been the first time that I'd seen it.
Well, yeah, because I grew up loving Steven Spielberg and loving that whole era of film, right? I grew up in the 80s, but somehow I never saw this movie till I was about 20-ish. So mid-90s, my cousin Andy was like, we were sitting on a Sunday afternoon. He's like, no, we're going to watch Jaws. And myself, him, and my brother sat there, and we didn't know what to expect, but we were enthralled for those 2 hours. We didn't move. And then since then, I've seen it several times, and I think every time it gets better. And that's all I'm going to say for now. But Josh, what's your experience with this movie?
Yeah, I also watched this movie when I was way too young to be seeing this movie. So it was terrifying the first time I had watched it. And then I remember revisiting it again, and I was like, oh, this isn't really that scary. And I think it was kind of just like playing it off, but and probably also like not really fully paying attention. So kind of like you, this almost felt like it was the first time watching this movie because I know some of the scenes like very well before this, but this is the first time I think really getting the big picture of everything all together. So great movie though.
Well, the director is a particularly famous one, Steven Spielberg, right? Everybody knows him, household name. And this is the movie that really made him famous. And I'm watching, I like watching movies multiple times because sometimes you can focus on different things. So tonight I tried to focus just on the shots and the directing. And not only are there incredibly framed shots, which a couple times, Steve, you leaned over, like when they're going out to the ocean and it's being framed in the jaw, the skeleton of the shark. There's shots like that. There's shots when the shark comes into the harbor and then they rescue the kid. And then what's the cop's name? The star, the protagonist. Is it
Chief Brody?
Yeah, Brody. Okay,
Yep.
When he looks out and then the camera just sees the emptiness framed by the dock.
Yeah.
That's a great shot. But the thing I gotta point out, the thing I noticed over and over again in this movie is there's a lot of really complicated long takes where Spielberg is orchestrating people moving around the frame. Like the weirdest thing, like even when Richard Dreyfuss brings the bottle of wine over and he brings it in and he puts it down and he's like, oh, I brought red and white. I didn't know what you were serving. And he's like, you mind if I'm eating this? And then he takes the food and he brings it over to his side of the table. Then the wife sits right here and they're having the conversation, and it's like
one shot.
It's like a 5-minute take, one shot, and it's perfectly like planned and perfectly acted, and everything is natural. And there's a lot of scenes like that in the movie. I'm sure you noticed that, right?
Very funnily, I really noticed it for the first time today. And like similar to you, I was really focusing on a lot of the shots. And there was one of the scenes in the town, it might have been after the initial attack when he's trying to get the paint and he's moving around, the car comes, he's getting. And I was thinking of Adolescence. Have you guys seen Adolescence on Netflix?
No.
It's a new show. It's very good. It's a 4-part miniseries about a kid who commits a murder. But the whole thing, each episode was a single shot. And they did really incredible things to achieve that. And as I was watching it, it was reminding me of the way things were moving around and thinking about how behind the scenes they must have had to do that. And that was, again, so ahead of its time to do that.
One more, and then Josh, I know you got one to talk about.
Yeah.
When there's all this chaos going on outside of that little tiny office he has, and then Brody is on the phone, and that cop is through the window, and he's trying to get his attention. He grabs something and he throws it against the window. No director would have thought to do that except Spielberg, because he's interacting with the inside and the outside, and he's going foreground to background, and everything's in focus, and it's just beautiful. And that's why I think today, 50 years later, the film still holds up. It's brilliant. It's
crazy that like the best parts of this movie are when they're
humans.
Yeah, it's the humans. It's not the shark. It's these long shots really kind of make you feel like you're in the movie, like you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on and what you're going to do about it.
Yeah.
That scene where he like throws the stuff at the window, the cop doesn't even like come in right away too, right? He's like, he just waits. And he's like, come on. Like everything just feels so natural. And then at the table, like the camera is almost set up like somebody sitting in the chair opposite to them, like same level, you know? So it really feels like you're sitting at this table figuring out like what's going on and talking to this specialist. Like you're really in these scenes a lot of the time. So yeah.
This being a movie that I'd only seen not really snippets of, but just sort of getting a sense of like, oh, it's a scary movie about sharks. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting the pacing was so well served by these long shots. It was very slow burn. It had action, but again, like you were saying, the shots with people talking is what made this movie. And I was not expecting that. I was expecting this to be a kind of cheesy, but also groundbreaking in special effects sort of movie about a scary monster.
No,
but it wasn't about that.
No.
And you know what? I don't think it would be as scary if we didn't have those scenes, because we care about these characters, right? Like when they're in danger, like we're fearful for them. Like at the beginning,
even Quint.
Yeah.
He was quite unlikable.
Yeah.
When his demise, it's very, you are so on his side and you're hoping he doesn't get eaten.
Well, they do a good job of like flipping that too, because you care for him after that, which is I think the best scene in the movie when they're in the boat and they're like laughing and joking around, and then it kind of like leads to this moment where he's
you talking about the scene,
his backstory.
You're talking about the scene when he and Richard Dreyfuss finally bond over and they're comparing scars.
Yeah. It's so
and then
good.
the speech about what is it called?
The Indianapolis, the SS Indianapolis.
Well, I was going to say, because in most movies, I think someone tonight mentioned, was it you, Steve, that mentioned Armageddon?
Yeah, when we were chatting there before.
But like movies like, no offense, but Armageddon, which I hate, and like, you remember like, what was that movie with where the pyramids are created by aliens? What was it, like a Stargate? Remember the movie Stargate? And like Kurt Russell's got a backstory where his kid something. All those movies where they try to give a cheap backstory to the lead character of a tragic backstory, it never works. But in this movie, it does work because, well, it has something to do with the plot. It expands on the mythos of what it is they're dealing with and what this guy has been through. So the fact that you mentioned it wasn't even in the novel.
No.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
right?
And it wasn't in the novel because it was classified at the time. So Benchley had no idea. Nobody did. And America really learnt about the Indianapolis and what happened and from the film Jaws, which is quite incredible.
Yeah. Oh, I love that scene. And I got to mention one more because we're talking about shots and scenes here. The part near the beginning, because Nicole had asked me earlier to talk about like the mix and how they have different people talking or whatever. I have no idea, but I love the part. I love the part where he walks into the shot and he comes up to the foreground and he answers one phone and realizes, oh, it's the wrong phone. He picks up the other phone, which is like the serious phone, and then he starts talking, and he's talking. We want to hear what he's saying, but we're being distracted by the kid and the mother in the background, and they're so loud that they're overwhelming what he can hear. So now you're combining like the directing, the acting, and the sound mix. Like, it's fucking crazy to even think of that, right? And I think there's stuff like that throughout the entire movie. Right, and it's almost like one of those things where, yes, it was the biggest moneymaker of all time, but I don't know if people appreciate it at the time. No, this directing is actually really good, right?
Well, I think so. This movie, we don't see the shark until probably more than halfway through,
maybe
right?
2/3 or something.
But
121 minutes, not properly. You see it in the pond a little bit, and you see it roll when it takes the kid on the lilo, but you don't properly see it. Until 121 minutes.
And I know part of that is because of the limitations of the animatronic and everything, but I think that we're not giving Spielberg enough credit because he does that with everything in this movie. I feel like when we don't really see the first attack, when that woman is like dragged down, we don't really see what's going on. And then when they discover her body, it's hidden by this like cliff that the one cop is like leaned up against. And then we just see the hand, nothing really else. And then
we just see the reaction to the sight of it, the horror.
And then even later on, like, they pull out the specimen and they open it up and we're shooting around it. We don't see the hand, and then finally we have this like shot of the hand. It's really like
the fact that they pulled out this
tub
buffet tray and just put on the table, and you're like, oh my god, that's the
what's
remains
left
of
of
her.
her.
That is more horrific than if you saw it, right?
And he also does a great job of like, we see him flipping through that book and he's seeing images of like actual real life
and they're
shark
real,
attacks.
they're real images.
So we're kind of getting these like little hints of what's going on, and then it's this build up to that reveal, that moment.
And our imaginations are always going to be scarier than anything that they can show up on the screen there. Just getting that little hint. And you're right, that scene where you just see her in the seaweed, that was chilling. It was chilling. It wasn't scary, but it just gives you this pit in the stomach, sort of like, this is serious.
Well, and the thing too is, in the whole movie, how many shark attacks were there? There was the girl, there was the little boy.
Quint? I include Quint.
Yeah, of course. So there was the girl at the beginning, the little boy,
the guy in the pond,
then the guy in the pond. That was it.
And then there was the end of the movie.
And there was the dog as well.
That
just went missing.
Which is breaking the ultimate movie rule: don't kill the dog, and it's only implied.
You're right.
But interestingly, there is some science behind that, and there's been shown to be a disproportionate amount of people who have been bitten by sharks when dogs are present in the water.
Interesting.
And they think it's something to do with how dogs swim, is a particular attractant. The
that's interesting.
Vibrations they give off in the way they awkwardly swim is believed to attract sharks.
Well, okay, so that reminds me of a scene I want to talk about. It's actually, we talked about long shots. I want to talk about cuts. The first time that Brody's sitting on the beach, and
that's a real bad hat, Harry.
Yeah, he wanted them to shut down the beach, but the mayor wouldn't. And if you notice, every time someone walks by the camera, it cuts It cuts from wide to mid to close, then reverse, then reverse. Every single cut is indicated by a person walking by the frame. It's amazing. And then there's a brilliant shot where the moment where
he realizes like it's happening.
The vertical effect. Let's talk about the vertical
was
effect.
insane.
The dolly zoom.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the vertical effect was invented by Alfred Hitchcock or his cinematographer in the movie Vertigo. They did it to show Jimmy Stewart's fear of heights. What you do is you take the camera and you dolly down, you move the camera down, and you zoom out at the same time. Now in this film, I'm not sure if they did the reverse, but it's the same effect.
I think if in one of the slides I showed where they're sitting on the beach, if you're really focusing on it, Brody's sitting in the deck chair, and you can see the ramps. So I believe, based on they set up the tracks, I think they physically run the camera at speed towards him, and then was zooming out at the same time.
And then I love the moment where he is frantically trying to get everybody to come out. And you see people running into the ocean to rescue. Who was it again? Was it the kid?
The little kid at that point.
The little kid. Yeah. And then after that, we have the floating, just the remains of the.
We call them lilos in the UK. I don't know what you guys call them.
Yeah, what are they called? I don't even know.
Pool floaties.
We call them floaties.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was brilliant. Just brilliant, right? That whole sequence. I mean, we could talk about Spielberg until we're blue in the face. Good. Which we could. Maybe we will talk about in the face. But we should talk about the actors as well, right? We got to talk. So the actor that played Brody was
Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider. What a great actor. What a perfect actor for this role, right? Now, we should also point out that just like in Vertigo, where Jimmy Stewart's character had a fear of heights and had to overcome that fear in order to kind of deal with the problem of the story. In this movie, Roy Scheider's character has a fear of the water. What a brilliant little ingredient to the story.
Was it explained why he had that fear?
No, but at one point, one of the characters says, "What's that?" Oh no, the wife says, "What's that fear called?" He said, "It's called drowning." Which is just a blunt way of saying, "I'm scared of drowning. Screw off." Right? You know what I mean? But it was brilliant, right? But anyway, his acting was great. What did you think?
Oh, he's
Josh?
fantastic. Yeah.
Like perfect. So
believable.
Right? Yeah.
I some of my favorite scenes with him too are actually with the mayor.
Oh yeah.
Because at the start he's kind of more of like a comedic character, like almost cartoonishly, like I don't care what's going on.
Sure.
Everything's staying open. And then when that like attack happens on, I think it's the 4th of July, he like goes to the hospital and they have this like moment. He's like,
when he closes the thing, he's like, "You're gonna sign right here."
The paper. Yes. It's like,
I love that.
It makes us also feel just like this is really fucking serious.
Yes.
Like even this character that's like the clown of the movie is like having this existential
because remember the mayor
fear.
was like
my kids were
on the beach too. Yeah, that was great. That was a great moment.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Champion, what do you think?
Yeah, he was perfect. He was just, pardon the pun, fish out of water enough, being the New York guy who's now in New England, and his squeamishness for going in the water himself. It was perfect because he was just frantically running back and forth, right? Like he never really jumped in to try and help anybody out.
Good point.
Yeah.
Until he actually got on the boat. And it really worked. It really worked. But he also felt, I think that as things got more serious, he started to relish it a little bit more as well. And I think his New York police background sort of worked for him there.
Yeah.
So eventually he said he wrote himself most into the Brody character. Now, Benchley was a diver. He was very comfortable in the water. But he believed that the most interesting characters, and they're common throughout movie history and books, are the ones that are put outside of their comfort zone. And how do they react? How do they step up? How would you step up? And he kind of tried to put himself in a similar situation as he was writing the book. What if I was really uncomfortable and put in the situation? Would I crumble or would I kind of step up? And Brody eventually stepped up because he was just faced with it. And I think that his ability to do that was driven by his sense of responsibility of what has come before, to the people that had died that he felt he couldn't save and should have been able to save. And I think that drove him to see it through.
And I think the moment where he sort of started to turn there a little bit is when he got slapped in the face by the kid's mother,
that's
right?
it.
And he starts to realize that, oh shit, like I did know about this. I could have stopped this. I didn't. I better get on this horse myself.
You're totally right.
It's also pretty poetic too that he finally makes this shot at the end of the movie, like once he hits the water, like once he's actually in the water, like he's on the mast, and it's slowly sinking, and he's missing, and then once he like
Joshua Mervell coming through once again. Great point.
Yeah, kind of like facing that fear. So yeah,
that's right.
He was fantastic. Yeah.
And he was alone. Like he didn't know that Richard Dreyfuss was alive at that point. That was a great scene. Which brings us to Richard Dreyfuss, which I thought he was great in this movie. He was funny. His intro scene is weird because he's in the scene and he's interacting with people, but we don't know who the hell he is. And he's joking
and
around.
neither do they.
It's so weird. And then he introduced himself. What a clever way to introduce his character,
and
right?
He's asking for the chief to the chief.
Yeah,
and he doesn't know who he is, so he's not quite forthcoming with that information yet. And then when they realize, you're that, you're him, and they hug it out.
And I also love when they're comparing the scars. That's kind of what makes what's his name, Quinn, accept him, right?
Yeah, and I think what was so great about that scene, and one of my favorite parts of the movie that is quite subtle and is again testament to the writers, and probably Spielberg had a big part of it, is though Quint doesn't like Hooper because he's a trust fund baby, which is such an interesting thing to write into the character. He could have been some sort of the earth marine biologist who worked his way up from nothing, but no, he's a trust fund baby. And Quint's like a real salty dog, from nothing. But they have that connection over the scars, but also the maritime element. He knows that Hooper can drive the boat. Brody is the real fish out of water in the sense of he can't contribute to that conversation. There's a great point where they're comparing scars, thresher shark, bull shark, and he lifts up his shirt to just peek at his appendix guy. He's like, shall I? And he you can see it. He doesn't say anything, but you see him like, maybe. And he's like, no, I'm just going to sit this one out. And I think it was such a great scene.
It was a great scene, right? Anything to add, Josh? What do you think?
He was great. I think that they do a really good job of setting him up. Again, that dinner scene where he moves the plate over. He's he brings both bottles there. Even just how he's interacting to him pouring the wine in the glass.
You should let that breathe.
He's great.
Brilliant.
And the comedy doesn't overstay its welcome.
You're right.
It's needed in these scenes, and
it's rooted in his excitement for what he's doing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not he's not being a buffoon for the sake of buffoonery.
Right.
I love that they make him competent too, right? Even the captain, he won't let the chief drive. Even right, he's like, no, that's not your job. Yeah. So even though they're at odds, he trusts him to drive the boat more than the chief, right? So they do. He
begrudgingly respects him because he recognizes that he does. I think even tying the sheep shank when he asks him to tie the sheep shank.
That was a great scene too, especially because he just throws it away. He wasn't expecting
it.
And
they didn't reshoot it. They just let it drape over him and him awkwardly throw it off. It made it more real. But
then a little bit later on, there's a scene where Hooper's going back to get the chum flag, and he pulls the wrong rope, and a bunch of
Brody.
Oh, Brody. Okay. So that's sort of you're a bit of a fuck up.
Yeah.
And you tied the knot and you fucked it up. So even though you're the chief of police, go scoop some more chum in the water, buddy.
Yeah. But then I also think it's interesting how Quint tries to have Brody warm to him, because when he comes back and he's just been reamed out by Hooper, which is not in Hooper's character, to ream, he wants to be on Brody's side. I think he's trying to build that camaraderie. But then Brody comes back to keep shoveling. He's like, hey chief, next time just ask me which knot to pull. I'm on your side. He's trying to play them off against each other a little bit.
Yep. So now we have to talk about Robert Shaw, who we know from Russia with Love. Remember?
What did he play in that?
He was the guy that came in at the end and had to fight with Bond on the train.
Oh,
he was the blonde. Yes, right.
Okay.
That was Robert Shaw. Can you believe that?
Huh.
So we should have done research. I don't know what he did in between these two movies. He was really big.
Well, he kind of got the part based on his performance in The Sting.
Okay,
That's how he got the part in Jaws, because as I say, they wanted Sterling Hayden, but
Right.
he really, you know, that picture you could see how he would have been Quint with the big beard, and he really looked like Captain Birdseye, like, you know, a real fisherman. But as I say, Sterling had tax issues, and he was in exile in Paris, living on a barge. And if he was to come back, they would have IRS would have taken his entire wage, so he opted out.
They would have Wesley sniped him right into prison.
And Shaw had tax issues also because he was British living in Ireland, and he'd just done a play in the West End, but he still had 2 months left on his work visa. But if he overstayed that, and that was tax exempt, but if he overstayed the 2 months, he would have to pay taxes on all his earnings from a previous film, the Broadway show, and Jaws. And they convinced him it would be done in 2 months, but they had all the issues with the sharks. He overran. He ended up having to pay all the money, but he was also making so much extra money from overtime from the shoot going over the intention that it kind of balanced out. But he was very upset about it.
But he was a perfect choice. I think his acting was incredible, right?
Yeah.
Like just the intro from scratching the nails on the chalkboard and on from there, he was flawless, right?
Yeah, and true to Spielberg being very adamant about them using locals to make it more authentic. The guy who played Ben Gardner, whose eventual head popped out the side of the boat, he's in a few shots. He helps Hooper off the boat at the beginning and has a chat to him. He was actually a local guy, a real local guy, and he had built a little bit of empire, but was in essence a fisherman. And they had Robert Shaw hang out with him to learn his accent, to learn his mannerisms. And Quint's character was really based on this real guy who played the character of Ben Gardner.
His accent was very interesting, very specific, right, to that area. That's so cool. What do you think, Ian? What do you think, Robert Shaw?
Iconic.
Yeah.
So many of the scenes that I'm familiar with in Jaws are from him, right? If you've ever watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there's a great scene where Charlie Kelly gives almost the same speech, except he's talking about rats.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
he's got the headband on and
he's
everything.
He's got the headband on. He's doing the voice, and he gets almost all the way through it. And like, are you doing this? Are you doing the speech from Jaws? And he snaps out of it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, but it's all based on that. And it's interesting to see a movie like this coming from the other side of it, right? Coming from all the little
parodies and
the parodies and the satires, and then seeing afterwards what these all come from. I'm like, oh, this is actually a fantastic scene. And his, again, the fact that he was on the Indianapolis, and that is what is driving him to catch this shark. It gives him a real sort of a Captain Ahab, like he's gonna kill this even if it kills him. And when he starts smashing the radio,
That was awesome.
because
So
they're
great.
calling the Coast Guard. It's like, no, we're not calling for help.
It's you and me.
It's just we're killing this thing,
that was
or it's
brilliant.
killing us.
I love that.
And you get
it.
the sense of the stakes here now. Like this guy's a little crazy. He's still probably the best guy to do this job, but better get it done.
Yeah,
But no, it's just and everything about him. The way he looked, the way he sounded, his mannerisms.
His hair,
yeah,
right? His facial hair.
yeah. The mutton chops. Yeah, it's been parodied. That speech has been parodied so much. I thought going into this, I was going to be like kind of giggling a little bit when that scene came on.
You weren't.
No,
one was
not
giggling.
even a little bit.
Right.
Like I think especially because they were joking around before, and it was this fun scene. Once he like switches that on, it's like
The whole audience, everyone like
I'm holding my breath.
Yeah.
The
I
whole
think that's
speech.
partly driven by Dreyfus, because he obviously, Brody is not aware of the Indianapolis, but Dreyfus as a marine biologist is, and as a shark expert is, and the tone change from him just highlights the seriousness of this, but then the
can almost see the
opportunity to
colours ran out of
explain
his
it to
face.
Brody, because Brody, and that allows it to be an organic explanation.
So the last actor we have to talk about is, of course, Bruce, which is the shark, right? Now, notoriously, Steve talked about in his slideshow, like the problems they have with the shark and the reasons why they kind of, Spielberg was forced to not show the shark, which helped the movie, which we all agree with. And so I'm watching the movie and, okay, I can see like 0.5% that this is not a real shark. But am I ever taken out of it? I don't. Maybe like this much, but not really. I buy the shark. What do you think, Josh?
I bought it 100%. I don't even think that there are really many shots where it doesn't work. I think for the most part, the practical effects are perfect. Like, yeah, I can't think of one scene where I'm like, it wasn't great. Like they could have done better, or it could have been fixed. No, I think it works the entire film. Yeah.
Going into this again, since I hadn't seen it, all I really had to go on was people saying the shark looks fake. One person famously who said the shark looks fake, Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future 2. When the 3D shark comes out and he screams like, shark still looks fake. Yeah. So does this shark look fake? And I was kind of looking at it through those eyes. Like, this is a fake looking shark, but it's 1975. But then you're showing the slideshow afterwards of the real great whites that were captured. And I'm like, those look just as fake.
Yeah.
Right. Every single one of those dead sharks with the mouth hanging open looks just as fake as Bruce did. The only, and I'm going to say about 80-85% I thought was flawless.
Yeah.
The scenes that didn't really take me out, but I could look at them critically and say, this looks cheesy, weird, was when it was up on the stern of the boat trying to chomp at people.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it's just doing this thing with its mouth. I'm like, is a shark going to do that? I don't know if it's going to do that. It seemed a little
maybe Spielberg
weird.
could have cut away, maybe. But I think the point you raised, Ian, is that when you see a real shark, and I'm so glad that Quinn said this, that a shark's eyes are like doll eyes.
Dead eyes.
Dead eyes. But he also says doll, doesn't he?
Yeah. Dead eyes like a doll's eyes.
Yeah, it's like, and that's what almost makes it look fake itself. A shark itself looks like a doll. So I think that's, I'm with you, Ian. It kind of
it doesn't really have that spark of life to it.
It's freaky.
But here's the thing, like, having been around them a lot, they are so prehistoric, pre-prehistoric even. They were around 250 million years before the dinosaurs even.
Jesus.
They sometimes do look fake. Like, particularly some of the weird ones, like the Greenland sharks that, I was lucky enough to work with in the Arctic. They don't look real when you see them, and especially when they're so big. It just seems fanciful that they could be real, and they're just so, Hooper describes them, which I love, as the perfect engines. And it's true. They're just so evolved over such a long time that they almost don't seem real. And anatomically, Bruce was pretty spot on. The only anatomical flaw is the jowls, and that was necessary for the hinge. They couldn't get around it. That's the only anatomical inaccuracy at all of the shark. Other than that, it's almost spot on, down to the claspers, the shark penis, and because he is a boy. But the only time, it's funny you said that, the first time I saw it to the time I saw it today, and the other 200 times I've seen it, the only time it's a bit weird is when it actually leaps to land on the stern of the boat. I can kind of buy it when it's there, but the actual way it comes out, there's something about the way it does it doesn't look real, and that's the only criticism I as a sharkbologist that I give to it.
Well, we want to thank Steven Spielberg for not going back and adding CGI Bruce, right? And fixing the movie.
No dolphins walking across.
Yeah, no CGI dolphins, right? Yeah, doing a Three Stooges routine.
They lose the harpoon gun and this wall walkie-talkies down.
So anyway, and this movie is among it's one of Spielberg's best, if not his best, which therefore makes it one of the best films ever made. It really is. I agree with you, Steve. So I don't know what to say. I mean, ultimate summer movie, the first blockbuster, which you talk about in your slideshow, which is available on our website, right? So we're not going to talk about it.
Coined the term blockbuster.
Yeah, it coined the term blockbuster. Okay, fine. Tell them why.
Oh, it's they were very clever. It had done so well with the test audiences that they realized it was a big deal, and they were originally going to release it in 600 theaters simultaneously, but they very cleverly always keep a line. Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's Ian's trick.
They reduced it down to 450 so that people wouldn't have free access to it, and it would keep a line and it would build the hype. But because of the line, it would kind of ruin the block, because the lines would be all the way around the block and it would bust the block. You couldn't go on the block, and the term blockbuster was coined.
That's brilliant. Anyway, okay, thank you, Steve Kessel.
My pleasure.
For
Thank
coming
you,
in from
Steve.
Yeah,
Chicago,
thank you so
much.
reviewing Jaws, and also talking about the film and your slideshow. It was so great to have you. Hopefully, we can have you again. Maybe Jaws 2, maybe 3,
I'd
maybe
love to.
4. We'll see.
Anything with a shark or an airplane.
Okay.
I love jets too.
Okay,
We
we'll
can do
work
Top
on
Gun
it.
maybe.
I'm sure that, yeah, there you go. I'm sure there's something we can review. Thank you, Champion,
Anytime.
hosting Movie Night every week.
Anytime. Thanks for picking this movie. Very
Yeah.
very appropriately for its 50th anniversary.
That's
but
right.
it was great.
Perfect
It was great
timing,
to see
Steve.
it.
Happy
Yeah.
anniversary.
Thank you.
Here's to swimming with bow-legged women.